Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of exploring Call of Duty Black Ops 2 multiplayer maps and trying to find secret and hidden details on them and what the stories are. This episode, I want to give a shout out to this commenter for suggesting the map that we're going to be looking at today. So, the map we're going to be looking at today is Standoff, a classic Black Ops 2 map that is very popular. It's been remade many, many times. And I think that the name of the map, much like Hijacked, is going to give us a little indication of what the story is on this map. And the description gives us a little hint as well. A border town between China and Kyrgyzstan, classic engagements and destinations to fight over. But who is fighting over? Let's take a look and find out. Alright, so here we are on the map Standoff. And the name of the map is a very big indication of what we're going to be looking for here. So if we start off on this side of the map, there's two different spawns, and I believe that the border of this, the location of this map gives us a very good indication about the two factions that are fighting here. The Chinese military, I think, is the number one force that was engaging here, along with possibly Kyrgyzstan's military, or perhaps even some Kurdistan mercenaries. As we look out on the outside of the map, there seems to be some sort of airfield or some sort of road, and attacks have been going on everywhere. And these vans that we see all around here are driven often by Kurdistan mercenaries. So you see here, the big thing about this map, and the main reason why it's called Standoff, is because of the tanks. Now, if the tanks were originally rolling through this town because China wanted to take control of this map's territory, we will have to try and look and see if we can make heads or tails of what this map's about. Obviously, this is a border town map. It's very, farming village. It's not the most key strategic point, but obviously this is land that the Chinese military wanted to take. So, if we take a look at the center map here, this is where the main standoff is occurring, obviously. And there's two different buildings that we look at here that gives us a very good indication about who is attacking from what position. Now, I think, judging from this barrier that's been blocked off here, and also that flaming tractor over there, I think it's pretty obvious that the tank here drove in from this side, and then the Chinese military put up this blockade here to keep anybody from trying to escape on that side of the town. We see there's some tracks here, very small tracks, too small to be a tank or a vehicle, so I'm guessing tractor or maybe a lifter or mover, and there seems to be boxes over here, so obviously there was some, stuff being transported around this area. So, if we take a look at this side of the map once again, the Chinese tanks rolled in from this side of the map. They knocked over some electrical poles here. They were pushing in to get a vantage point, and obviously they were rolling into this map, and whoever was here ambushed the tanks. We see here there's grenade explosions, rockets going off. Obviously the tank shells have been fired, and we can take a look over here to see just where they're firing from. Now, it's possible that the tanks from this position maybe fired and hit that upper tower in the center building. It's very possible that is also the case. I think the most likely scenario, if you take a look over here, is that this tank is responsible for blowing apart this wall. Now, obviously, I think the tanks were a reactionary measure. I think that originally the Chinese military came with infantry on foot, and they managed to make it a pretty decent way, maybe about center part of the town right here, and that's when they got ambushed. And the two buildings here and over there gives us a very good indication about what was happening. So if we take a look up in this building here, you see the glass has been smashed both in and out. Both in and out. I think it's very obvious from the way that all the glass has been broken that the people who were waiting in this town for the Chinese military to come through, they knew that they were going to be coming, and they took up defensive positions. We know we love that. And started to, once the tanks got a decent way into the center of town, they broke these windows here and started to fire upon the infantry. And that's when the infantry probably backed off, and then they rolled back in with the tanks. It's not clear who was performing the defense of this town, if it was Cordesdia, if it was the local residents trying to resist being taken by the Chinese military. There's not enough evidence yet to definitely to find out what's going on. There's train tracks over here, so obviously this is a very strategic point for supply lines. That's a good indication about why this place might be targeted. You see lots of different broken things, ransacks and looting is going on here. So obviously when the fighting started, this is a good indication about the chaos that this small town went into. So the Chinese military started on this side of the town, and they worked their way through here to try to get a vantage point on the defenders who were attacking them, kind of getting them in an ambush. And I think that the Chinese military probably flanked around to this position. Perhaps they got into an engagement. As we can see here, there are bullet holes against the inner walls here, so perhaps the Chinese military was coming from this way. People were firing in this direction, and as they pushed in further, they backed out. The Chinese military pushed in here, and they fired upon them some more. As we see, there's lots and lots of tracks here, and I think that these barriers were put up by the Chinese military after they managed to swoop onto this side of the map and get a good vantage point. Obviously, the tire tracks here, the people who were here left in a very big hurry, and the only vehicles that remain are these Cordesdia mercenary vehicles. So let's take a look over in this building right here, see if we can find anything. Doesn't appear to be any signs of gunfire. However, if we move over here, there's no glass on the inside of the building. It's hard to tell if this dumpster was moved in front of this door here, so probably the glass is beneath this dumpster. And when the Chinese military came from that side of the street, whoever was here broke this window and started to shoot down street. And obviously, the tank is a good indication that that window was broken by the defenders. Because as we can see here, the tank shot, hit that wall, and is now turning its cannon towards that window over there. So, pretty obvious that the Chinese military are not the ones who broke that window. Those were the defenders. So, why is the map called Standoff? Obviously, because there's a battle going on here. But what is the standoff? I think that the standoff is a good indication between this building and that building. Whether the Chinese military took that building over there, we don't know for sure. But what we can know, if we move into this side, look around here, there doesn't appear to be many bullet holes, so probably the Chinese military came in from this side once again. They moved in along with their tank. They pushed into this building right here, and they were fired upon from probably a defensive position right here, or maybe the guys that were trying to retreat onto the stairs, they shot down there, because up here is where the main defensive area and the defenders were attacking from in here. The standoff occurred from these windows mainly, because this overlooks the entirety of the town. Many people know from playing the multiplayer map that in multiplayer, this is a very big sniper point. It's a very big power position. So obviously, in the story of the map, whoever was taking this position up in these buildings definitely wanted to get here because they could easily ambush anyone from anywhere on this entire map. As we see, there's bullet holes inside here. So definitely, I think that that building over there was originally a position held by the defenders, and the Chinese military, they probably got ambushed from a lot of different areas, and all at once all these windows were broken, and whoever was inside these buildings shot down onto the street, and that's when all hell broke loose. And as you can see here, more bullet holes against this wall here. It's pretty obvious that eventually the people were backed up against here. The Chinese military probably shot against them, probably boarded them up into that upper floor there. Obviously, more boxes were moved to get easy access because whoever was up here were probably dug in like ticks, and it was very difficult to get them out. So, now let's take a look more at the center building here. Center building, we see lots of bullet holes coming from this position. So, a lot of bullet holes here as well. So, if we take a look Chinese military, once again, coming from this side. The tanks are coming in from this area. Chinese military comes in here after that wall's been blown up, and they decide to push in the center building. Once again, all the defenders are up on the second floor. And as we can see, there's lots of bullet holes up on that ceiling, giving even more indication that people were down here firing up into these upper windows. If we take a look over here, glass has been broken. So, China's military comes in, center building, pushing in here. And they start firing against that wall right there, pushing back the defenders up onto the stairs. And then in here we see the glass has been, the windows have been punched out and the glass has been broken in. And it looks pretty smashed here. So whoever was here knocked out these windows to shoot down at the street below. Once again, power position. And then they got just riddled with bullets from probably not only the street below, but from military forces pushing up into here. So the main question is, who was the Chinese military fighting? Who were the ones that were defending this town? We see lots of grenades being thrown into the center of town, bricks that were all taken off of the wall when they were destroyed here. It's pretty obvious that the tanks probably got this far, or perhaps this was even destroyed by an RPG to give better access to the center area. But definitely this wall here was knocked out by this tank coming in from this area. And I think at this point, now that the Chinese military have put roadblocks and barbed wire around the entirety of the map, preventing anybody from leaving, that is where the name of the map comes into play, Standoff. Because all of the defenders who are up on the second stories of all these maps with broken out windows, it's clear that they are stuck in these upper buildings here. The Chinese military can't easily proceed because there's still people up in these buildings shooting down at the street. And that's where we get the name Standoff, because the Chinese military is at a standoff with whoever is defending this border town. Now, I think the most likely answer is that Cordestia mercenaries, for their own purposes, want to prevent the Chinese military from gaining access to this border town, because once again, as we can see here, on the other side of the map, we have this train yard and this railroad track, and it's very clear that this is a drop-off point for, important supplies, and anybody who were to take the city would have easy access to and from China, and basically any supplies they wanted to unload, which is what all these boxes seem to be. Take a look over here. You see that it's just big, wide open farmland, and then a train coming from that center valley, most likely from China. So, I think that we can definitely say that this is the Chinese military, and most likely either Russian or perhaps Cordestia forces that were defending this, because as we know, Cordestia pits the Americans and the Chinese against each other in the story of the campaign, so it's very likely that it's Cordestia doing some kind of a ploy to keep the Chinese military occupied and have tensions rise between the U.S. and China. So, what did you guys think of this little map breakdown and exploring of the details of Standoff? And if you liked it, be sure to give it a like and give me more suggestions of other Black Ops 2 maps that I should take a look at.